Hi, this is a series where we discover how to build a world eater, step by step through concepts. This is the chapter 1, and today we are going to build our first working design. Today's concepts are all about how to make a flying machine with attached duper move back and forth. But first, just like in driving lessons, we need to learn how to stop. The easiest way to stop a flying machine is to use an obsidian block, but not for us, since you cannot move obsidian block and in our builds everything needs to be movable. Another way, we can use the limitation of piston, 12 blocks push limit. If we put something big enough in the way of our machine, so that the sum of blocks of nearest side of machine plus this new part will be more than 12 blocks, then machine will stop. But there is a problem. In case the colliding blocks stick to each other, they will become too heavy to move back. To solve this, we need to make these points non-sticky, at least to each other. There are 3 ways to do this. If you're rich, you can use slime with a honey block. As we have already discussed, honey does not stick to slime, but on the other hand, honey is much more expensive compared to slime blocks. And if you're going to use honey in a segment, you will have to make the entire segment with it. The cheapest way is use 2 non-stickable blocks, such as stone. This is not suitable when the segments are already too big and there is no room for another block. And one more option is glazed terracotta. It doesn't stick to slime and honey, and you can safely place it in the path of any sticky block. This solution is great if you do not have free space on the machine segment, but have a lot of free space outside. A completely different way is to use a powered piston. We already talked about this in the previous video. A powered piston is immovable, and if you use it, you don't need to get more than 12 blocks in total. You just need a way to power piston and leave it in a powered state for a while. For example, you can put a redstone block in front of the machine and set the piston in its path. We'll use this trick in the next series. Now we have the technology of brakes. Need to understand how to make our machine go backwards. Let's take this machine as an example for this section. There are extra pistons here because there is no such thing as a machine working on its own. There is always something else doing the main work, and this scheme is widely used for pushing blocks down and wiping liquids. First and most obvious, you can trigger an observer that powers the piston. To do this, you can activate any redstone component block or simply move a regular block sideways. The idea is just to change the state of the block in front of observer. For the delay, we can use a chain of observers or a chain of movable segments. Observers are more accurate, you always get a delay of 1 redstone tick, and they are boring. Let's skip them and move on to the movable segments. This is a primitive flying machine with a piston and an observer. When something pushes it, it activates the observer fires the piston, and the piston moves the next segment. In our case, we need to keep them in place, so we need to know the possible positions of the previous segment. There are 2 points that the piston can reach. We need to occupy them with slime blocks, so they become always accessible for the piston. This also means that in our case, all the connections between the segments must be aligned perpendicular to the previous ones. And if they are parallel, there will be a case where the next segment is too far away and movement will be impossible. Now about delays. There is a difference between segments that push or pull their neighbors. The difference is really simple but important for understanding timings. When it pulls, it needs 1 redstone tick to activate the observer. Then the next redstone tick is needed to extend the piston, to grab the next segment, and another redstone tick to pull the segment. So in total we have a delay of 3 redstone ticks. For the pushing segment the situation is different. It moves the segment when it extends, and no one cares about the pull event. So the delay here is 2 redstone ticks. This can help us save a huge amount of space in the future. For show reasons, I'll make these segments horizontal and flat, but of course it's not necessary. First segment is a stopper. It must be big enough to stop the machine. In our case, the closest side of the machine is 5 blocks, so the segment needs at least 8 blocks. And also at least 1 block on this line needs to be slime, otherwise the machine will just ignore the entire slime section. The observer detects an incoming block and activates the piston. The piston pulls the next segment, and it needs to change the state of the block in front of the observer on machine. When the observer triggers, the machine is still moving and it just ignores the command. Let's add another segment here for extra delay. This delay is enough to send back, but here are our pistons. They were active when the machine was sent back, and since they're immovable when activated, they have become disconnected. To avoid this, we need to add another segment. Of course, this block monstrosity can be fixed by using the third dimension. And one more detail, even this scheme with 4 segments will not work if the observer is activated several times. Here we move the observer instead of the stone, and it activates immediately after the movement is completed. This will cause the machine observer to trigger twice, first after movement, second after activating the observer. Reason of failure is the same. The cycle of flying machine is like push, then wait to be pulled. And if you have powered pistons in the side that is waiting to be pulled, it won't work. Another way to launch machine backwards is to power corresponding piston. You can power the air block above the piston and it will power the piston itself. This is helpful in case if you have no free space in front, but a lot of space above, or if it is difficult to reach the observer. You need to power piston on the near side and it will push the far side, so the moving cycle will be activated. There are other ways, but they are not applicable for us and these methods are enough. Okay, it works and moves back and forth. Let's add duper here. And this will be the third moving segment of our machine, so we need to provide an engine for it. We need to push and pull it, so it must be a sticky piston and observer to activate. I'll use the duper I saw at Ilmango's video. It is two-directional with 2 drooping points. To build it, you need to make this shape with slime. Then add walls here, 1 rail, 1 minecart, coral, TNT, coral, TNT. And to assemble you need to push it forward. That's it. You can only move it with this block, otherwise TNT will explode. The first problem here is that you can't start the machine. It's too heavy because the duper part is too close to the machine and the total number of blocks to be pulled is much more than 12. To solve this problem, we need to push the duper once and only then start the machine, or we need to stop the duper one block earlier, when it arrives at this station. And the same problem on the other side. Here, when the duper arrives, it gets pushed one more time, and when it needs to be pulled to get it back, it's too far away to reach. So you have to prevent the last push with a stopper or pull it again before starting the machine. Okay, it seems to work now. Let's see if we can use it as a proper vault eater. Here are the machines we built, covering 100 by 100 blocks area. Since we have no link in between sections, I need to start them separately. Then we'll see how good is this in the work of cleaning the perimeter. There are two problems. One is the liquids, they prevent the TNT from destroying blocks. The other problem is that this hole can be deeper than 85 blocks. This is the maximum distance an ignited TNT can fly before it explodes. There are some tricks that will help us solve these problems in the future, and I will show you them. And for today, this is it. Thank you.